17th of June, 1977, Tancos Air Base, Portugal. A routine flight for José Francisco Rodrigues, a pilot in the Portuguese Air Force. 11:15 a.m. The wheels of his Dornier 27 lift off the runway. What Rodrigues doesn't know is that within the next hour, he would have a central role in one of Europe's most extraordinary UFO encounters, and that he'd be lucky to escape with his life.
O caso de Castelo de Bode é importante porque temos aqui significativo exemplo de uma interação física de aparente objeto não identificado com os instrumentos de bordo do próprio avião.
Rodrigues is now retired from the military and no longer talks about this shocking event. But his case was the subject of a full investigation by the Portuguese Air Force. UFO investigator Francisco Correa has obtained access to the military files on the incident.
This is a Dornier 27, a plane exactly like the one flown by Francisco Rodrigues. On the day of the encounter, he would have been flying solo.
The Dornier 27 is a German single-engine light utility aircraft popular among pilots for its aerial maneuverability. Although just 23 years old, Rodrigues is an experienced pilot, a sergeant with over 800 flying hours behind him. Rodrigues is flying over Castelo de Bode, a hydroelectric dam 85 miles from Lisbon. Less than an hour after takeoff, he notices a dark object through the clouds. He radios back to base to find out if any other aircraft are flying in the area.
Charles Charlie 4, airborne from runway 4, climbing to 2,000 feet inbound altitude number 10.
Charles Charlie 4, confirm scope 3310.
Contact the tower had nothing on radar, so he initiated a left turn.
Rodrigues maneuvers his aircraft to get a better view of the object.
And when almost completing that turn, he screamed. The control tower heard this scream.
At 2,000 feet, Rodrigues is face to face with something completely inexplicable.
At 11 o'clock, there was a big round-shaped dark object about 12 to 15 meters wide. It stood there for 5-6 seconds and it then went away.
As the UFO disappears, his Dornier begins to vibrate violently. Suddenly, the magnetic compass spins wildly out of control. And from an altitude of 2,000 feet, the plane slips into a dramatic nosedive.
The plane's engine was still working, but he just couldn't get hold of the plane. He was desperate, in panic, trying to get hold of the plane.
As the ground approaches, Rodrigues struggles to regain control of the aircraft. He opens the throttle, a life or death attempt to level the plane. Just above the dam, he manages to stabilize the Dornier. Francisco Correa has come to the Castelo de Bode Dam, where two witnesses observed the dramatic nosedive.
There were two shepherds here who saw the airplane and saw it nosedive. And they saw it go below this hill over here, and then they saw it, bah! When the pilot turned off his engine and started to pull it on again, it made bah! And they saw it, then the plane going just above, nice and easy.
On landing, The pilot undergoes a full medical examination. Although shaken, he's in good physical shape and immediately reports the UFO sighting to senior officers.
Pilots are often reluctant to come forward and speak about UFO sightings. They fear that they'll be ridiculed, they fear that there might be adverse consequences in terms of their career.
But the Portuguese Air Force take the report seriously and launch a thorough investigation into the incident. "35 years on from the UFO sighting, historian Joachim Fernandes has gained access to the military files.
Well, this is Francisco Rodrigues' report from the Castelo de Bode case. The letter from Air Force, as you can see here. The summary of his own case, Rodrigues' case, and the report from pilot, report from a sighting of an unidentified flying object.
Rodrigues describes the object as being up to 15 meters wide, 3 meters wider than his Dornier.
And also the sketch from the object that emerged from the clouds and the encounter next to 6-7 meters from the plane. It was a scary experience.
The first mystery. Why did this large object flying at high altitude fail to appear on radar? Chris Morshead was a radar engineer with the Royal Navy for 30 years and has full faith in the technology.
When it comes to reporting objects, radar is probably far more accurate than the pilot. At high levels, it would be extremely unusual for something that physically appeared in front of a pilot not to actually be picked up on a radar.
At an altitude of 2,000 feet, the UFO should have been detected. So the possibility remains that what the pilot saw was not a solid object at all.
Quite often you do get atmospheric situations where tricks can be played on the eye, and it very much depends on the pilot, the lighting conditions, the weather conditions around him as to what he actually sees. And it can be quite easy to make mistakes.
Since the 1950s, many UFO sightings by pilots have often been explained by a curious atmospheric phenomenon.
You can actually get mirage effects due to temperature inversions, stuff like that, which can actually sort of fool the eye into thinking that there's something there which actually isn't there.
Well, a mirage is essentially created by different layers in the atmosphere that have a different temperature, i.e. the air has different densities. And it's a bit like putting, say, a spoon into a glass of water. You see that the metal in the spoon is bent. The same happens with light passing through the atmosphere with layers of different density. So objects in the distance on the horizon can sometimes appear distorted, they can appear closer to you or further away.
But a mirage does not explain the most puzzling question of all. Why did the Dornier, an aircraft renowned for its handling, nosedive so unexpectedly whilst the engine remained operational? Professor Raul Berengel explains the dynamics of flight.
You have a low pressure above the wing, and underneath the wing, a high pressure.
A wing is designed so the air moves faster over the top surface than it does over the bottom. The slow-moving air beneath the wing has a higher pressure, which gives the aircraft lift.
If this phenomena goes at very high speed, aside from the plane, what happens? You just lost your lift. Then the plane plunges down.
A jet passing at high speed could have sent the Dornier into a nosedive. But it doesn't explain why the magnetic compass spun wildly out of control.
Well, in order to spin a compass at that distance, will be needed a force, a magnetic field generated by this object that goes around the plane. And a normal plane or a jet do not have such an amount of magnetic field.
Whatever the object was, remains a mystery.
That's an object that flies, and I don't know what it is, so it's a UFO.
But something else from that day adds an intriguing twist to the story. As Rodriguez slips into his nosedive, workers at the Castelo de Bode Dam are dealing with an emergency of their own.
At the same time, pilot Rodriguez was experiencing his falling to the ground with his airplane. This hydroelectric dam was experiencing a huge, unexplainable drop of energy.
Power at the dam is restored. But the question remains whether these two strange incidents are connected, adding another layer of mystery to a puzzle that may never be completely solved.
The situation regarding UFOs is quite interesting. As an engineer myself, I'm a great skeptic. I always believe that there must be some rational explanation. Occasionally, though, there are those situations when you just can't explain the problem, the phenomena that you've seen. Whether or not that's spaceships coming from another world, who knows? Personally, I find it hard to believe that it is. I think it's probably just a natural phenomena we haven't identified.